Hello, my name is Raphael Diekreuter. I'm the head of AR for SoReal Digital Twins, company based in Switzerland that creates digital scanning, 3D scanning, digital models of real-world objects.
So talk about like what you're showing here at CES specifically. Is it that company, Raphael?
Yeah, sure. At CES, we're showing off the capabilities of SoReal, which has the capability to create the best possible 3D scanning available. It uses proprietary technology to really capture all the detail, both inside and outside, which is very rare. Usually all 3D objects, the way they're captured is just the outside, that's it. It's just basically a flat surface, but we're able, the capability to scan the inside and the outside to really capture an object in its entirety. And that can be used then for games, AR, VR, movies, visualization projects and all that.
You talk about how this process specifically works, because I know some 3D printer connoisseurs on our site have some 3D scanners, but like they're very small. Like, so you put an object on there and they have some cameras and they take pictures and they kind of make a crude 3D model. How big is this scanner? Like, what's the biggest thing you could scan with your technology?
Yeah, it's pretty large. I would say the size of a sofa or even a bit larger is that, but of course it's a question of price. It can be pretty big, but not like, it's not a house or something like that.
So you talk about like the implications. You mentioned, gaming technology, like the implications of doing something. I know that Forza, I don't know if they used 4D scanning, but they used some kind of 3D pictograph technology to scan cars into their game. Is it something similar like that? Could you do something like that with your technology?
I mean, a key part of it is scanning is still one part of it, but then the other is sort of our pipeline that really processes the assets in the best possible way. You get great topology, and then also adding physical attributes into the objects. So that basically as you use them in a game engine such as Unreal or Unity, it has already advanced properties in it such as physics, and it really captures the objects of what it is. And then obviously people can use that for everything they want.
What are some other implications for your scanning technology and like for industrial, medical, other stuff aside from gaming?
Yeah, it could be used definitely for medical, for even military. It could be used for industrial applications. Really, it's all about if you really care about bringing a real-world objects, pretty perfectly into the virtual world and then using it there. And especially now in the age of Zoom meetings and virtual web and hopefully a more 3D experience, instead of just a flat web experience. The thing that we see happening a lot now is virtual booths, basically, that companies start building not just a flat website, but almost like a digital booth that you can scroll through and navigate around and experience their products in a 3D way. So
how complex can the object be for an accurate scanning? Can you take like an engine block and like scan it and like get all the nooks and crannies in there? I mean, I'm assuming there's some type of finesse or like a quick overview you have to do before you dump it in to whatever the final product is.
It can be pretty complex. Like we did actually scan a head from Terminator, so which captured everything, even the inside, and we have that on our website if you want to check it out at soreal.ch. And same we did with an Iron Man helmet, which has an inside and outside, and even some mechanics inside. I mean, there is certain limitations, but in general, it really is about being able to capture an object in its entirety.
You talk about how your scanner essentially works. I mean, obviously some scanners use photos, I know some use waves. There's different types of them. Can you talk about how your hardware specifically works? Yeah,
it's a CT technology, so it's pretty much similar to maybe what you would see in a airport, but it really, we don't reveal all the details about it, but it's definitely not just photographic. It goes really on the inside and captures all the details.
That's super interesting because, like you said, most of the ones that I'm familiar with, I think a lot of consumers are aware of are like the photographic types where they take different views, like whether it's 10 or 500, and then they kind of get pasted all together in some type of 3D file. But it can be crude, it can be off. You know what I mean? You still have to do some like heavy adjustments. It's not as easy as just like putting something down, taking photos, and then printing it. You have to do a lot of segue after that.
I think that's one of the challenges of the 3D industry and why people, everybody is comfortable now on their iPhones taking photos and maybe videos, but 3D is still hard. It's just not super easy to do. And so we're trying to help with that if you have objects scanned by us, that it really get the best quality and can use it. And that's what you want to work with, getting past this cumbersome and difficult process of creating 3D, which is a roadblock for companies entering the 3D space.
It's true if you know nothing about it. You have a you have like a preferred, I mean, obviously it spits out files that a lot of different programs can take. Do you have any partnerships or exclusivity with like Unreal, 3D Max, Unity, that kind of stuff?
We have a partnership with Unity, and we have a couple others, but that's all at the moment that we can announce. Our format can be used for anything, so it's not exclusive or anything. We try to be wide open, but we want to definitely support Unity and Unreal as a priority, and of course Maya, 3D Max, and all the other important programs.
I mean, I feel like technology, especially nowadays, is advancing so rapidly. Does that help you in your situation with a company like this? I mean, like NVIDIA with their GPUs and new CPUs coming out like every year that are just mountains better than the year before.
Oh, absolutely. It's almost unreal. It's literally, now things are possible that, when I started 20 years ago, getting into this industry that we dreamt of. Like, yes, if you know a little bit about 3D, you have to create the objects and then you have to render it, and it may take several minutes or hours just to render one frame, and till you see the results and all those things. And now being able to do this in real time on your laptop is just mind-blowing. So for people out there who may be not too familiar with it, but basically that you could create an entire car commercial virtually with a real looking car, a real looking, Grand Canyon, streets, smoke, with a sunrise and sunset, and you wouldn't know the difference. You would know, you think, oh, this is filmed for real with, 50 people, versus no, maybe it was done by one person on a computer using 3D objects and virtual. So the capabilities of that combined with 5G, that now, hopefully the next few years, this kind of content can be, basically rendered in the cloud and be looked at on your iPhone or iPad or all these other devices that exist. In real time is incredible.
Does your platform scan for color and texture as well, or is it just the surface area of the object?
Yeah, we also scan the textures, which is very important as they play a key role in how good something looks. Yes.
That's insane. Like that's incredible. Like, I mean, like I said, I'm semi-familiar with technology that's scanning in 4D, but usually it just gives you like those gray textureless models, you know what I mean? And you're like, oh, that's cool. But if you can get the color and the texture and all that nitty gritty stuff that usually happens somewhere in the post department, right out of the gate, that's insane.
Yeah, no, that's why I think the quality we have is pretty remarkable. And in the end, that's what people want. You want the best looking object with everything captured. Otherwise, you can just use a simpler way.
Now, I know, like you said, that like a lot of your technology is under wraps because it's proprietary and you're probably working out patents and stuff like that. But is it safe to scan a human being into your system?
I could say it would not be safe.
Okay. we don't want to create any gamma radiation here, so it's just inanimate objects.
Not yet. Yeah.
What's the most like can you give us an example of something like really complex that you've scanned and like put out there in the world to see?
Yeah, sure. I would say a Louis Vuitton bag is definitely, and it's super detailed. It's an example we have. A really complicated old gun, revolver, like a pirate gun basically. It's another good one. And again, the examples from Terminator and Iron Man, just because it's so well known, you would immediately spot the flaws. So many people have seen it. But versus, if you check our website, you'll see the real model versus the virtual one, and we believe you can't really tell the difference.
Do you think this is a way to kind of like speed up the process when paying like a 3D modeler, or like someone who's like or a ZBrusher, like someone who would take months to make something, and you could just pay months to make a model of like whatever, something complex, obviously like a character model. You could scan it in, like if it's a toy or like something based off of, and scan it into your system, ingest it into whatever program you need, and all you'd have to do is basically rig it, maybe do some minor adjustments, and it would be pretty much done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's different reasons why you do certain things. Usually if you have somebody model it in ZBrush from scratch, I mean, the Iron Man originally was built that way. It's when it doesn't exist, you kind of like try to sculpt or create something that's not really exists. It's different. In our case, usually the object exists and you're like, we want just that, you know? And so rebuilding it from scratch can be frustrating because like it already exists. Why do we have to reimagine it? And maybe it's not correct. But there's place for both of it, of course, and they work hand in hand. And of course, you could always use the scan and then work on top of that and make a different version of it, which could be interesting, or even change the materials, you know? So let's say you want to scan in a watch, or let's even take a pirate revolver and you're like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if that existed in glass or in wood or all these kind of materials that like, you're like, well, that would be super difficult to do in the real world. Well, just by drag and drop a different material, you have it, you know? So being able to see that and maybe present that to customers or investors or people you work with.
Or even as like
having
from an
a 3D object.
Standpoint, yeah.
Yeah, so having the capability with 3D, you can do anything literally at this stage. And that's exciting for so many reasons.
It's one of those things about human beings, like we have this innate curiosity about like, can this work? Like you said, can we make this out of glass with the integrity hold? Well, like now you can actually figure that out faster.
Yeah. At least you could see it. You know, at least you could see it. So in my case, I worked for a decade in Hollywood and films like Iron Man, Avengers, and what we would do, we would plan action sequences for movies before you do it for real. So the ability to see it before you're like, oh, maybe it's a bad idea that the helicopter is this size or the film set is this big, and just seeing it before you do it is a critical part. So many businesses working in 3D being able to play around and see the result before doing it is also a big advantage and helps to averse risk and save money.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest misconception. I mean, I spent many years in the film industry and like just seeing how the amount of work, prep, and people that make these CGI sequences, it's insane. Like there's just so much work that goes into it, so much time, money, and energy. You know what I mean? For a 3-minute scene, you know what I mean? Like it's absolutely it's bonkers. And like you said, it helps the director, the producers, the writers, they can see, even if it's rough, just how the scene can play out, because the only thing you have other than words is maybe a storyboard that shows some camera movements. Like that's it, you know. And it's
the issue is that expectations are very high, you know, and that's a critical element of it, that people expect so much now, and you're not impressed, you know, the same way you're kind of not impressed if you just go back a few years ago. A low resolution photo was like, oh wow, we can send photos, or we can send an MMS through the phone, and now you're like, I'm shooting a 4K video on my iPhone. I mean, you know, it's just, and people are like, no big deal. I'm like, it is a big deal, trust me. So people adjust very quickly, and we do believe that also will happen with 3D graphics and what they expect to see on a web store, you know, and all those things. Another example would be, if you're furnishing your place and you're browsing and you see this great couch, or you see, elements to decorate your home with. Well, you just see a picture and you're not fully sure, does this fit? Now using AR, you could place the couch already in your apartment or in your house and see, oh, you know what, it's actually too big or it's too small. And so there's a whole new dimension to that are people getting used to interact with objects, and then also using 3D and AR, you know, in their daily lives. And then on the business side, it just saves a lot of cost because it reduces returns. You know, IKEA proved this, that they were able to reduce with their IKEA Place app by, I think, 80%, because people wouldn't order stuff and were like, yep, didn't fit, instead of like, tried it, I know exactly it's gonna fit.
Yeah, I mean, we've been covering VR for many, many years, and a lot of the things we've seen before is just companies showing customers how something will look to scale in a VR headset, in that kind of stuff, whether it's a car or a couch or a cabinet or something like that, like some bigger things that you really want to, maybe you can't go to the dealership to see the car, because right now, like, everyone's on lockdown, right? So you could see the car in a VR space or in a 3D space, and mainly VR to get a sense of scale, but like, look inside, see if you like the look of it, see if, the stuff that you need, that it's needs for, look at the truck bed, that kind of stuff. Because you can look at numbers on the screen all day, but sometimes people really need to see the physical thing or the 3D thing to get a sense of scale and if it is big enough. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think a challenge right now still is we still live in a 2D world of information. People are used to scrolling and swiping. If you search something, you go to Google and then you're like, page 7 is where you found your result, which it's still amusing to me that we're still living in that age of lists and pages that hasn't been found a better way. But I do believe we're also on the brink of new ways of how information is shared, such as location-based or with AR in a context of what you're looking at. Head-up displays in cars are coming, so there's definitely a big revolution happening right now of that the information is where you need it to be, not just like on some page far away, deep down in the web of Google.
Has your platform tried to scan organic things like fruits or like plants, anything like that? Or
yes, we have done that, yes, and it works well.
In theory, like you said, your scanner's pretty big, as the size of a sofa. Obviously, as technology improves, can this get like bigger to the point where it's an entire room, like like a 40 by 40 foot room, essentially? Like if
Yeah, that's a good question. We're working on a couple of things. We're definitely trying to figure out the best ways, how we can offer the best service to scan all kinds of things. And we'll definitely put the word out when more stuff's ready.
Are you allowed to talk about, I'm getting kind of into the reads here a little bit, but like, have you done any work for like with Inferno or Houdini with your platform, inserting models in the Hollywood industry on that end?
We actually use Houdini, so we are.
Oh, perfect.
Houdini
Okay.
is part of our pipeline, so definitely familiar with it.
So for people who aren't, it's just very high-end, industry standard technology that is very hard to learn because you have to get an apprenticeship. So.
Yes.
That's
why it's still specialized, and that's why I think it's a roadblock. It works on Hollywood films and high-end computer games, but what can the average small business or the average consumer do to be in the world of 3D and be a part of it? And that's what has to get easier, and then there's so many business opportunities that way.
Just as what we've always said, right? We've always said, new technology is expensive, it's cutting edge, it's not for everybody, and so only the elite or super big businesses are going to have access to it. But you know what, I remember when plasma TVs were a thing and how expensive those were. You're talking like $5,000 for a 50-inch plasma when it came out. Now TVs are what, $200, $300, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's just technology takes time to reach that level. The R&D is so expensive and the information is so new and it's cutting edge. It takes time to trickle down to the consumer mass market. But this is where it starts, is with people like you and companies like yourself.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I enjoy the conversations I have sometimes with people about the latest iPhone, and they're like, well, there's nothing new in it. And I'm like, I'm not sure you realize how much new stuff is in there, first of all, and also how high the level is of stuff you're getting, and people just like, And it takes a lot. It takes a lot to wow people these days, but that's where it's at.
Another thing too is I could see for your, despite it being less popular, there are still practical effects. Spider-Man still has to wear a physical suit in some cases. You could take that suit, scan it on a mannequin, and then they could have that suit digitally without having to recreate it from scratch. And they'd have, the official approved suit. Or I'm just using it as an example. I'm not saying you've done it. I'm just saying something like that would be what you would use for in Hollywood. And even for that, like digital backups, having that specifically designed suit backed up digitally, fully 3D, somewhere in a data bank. So if they ever need to go back to it and look at it, they don't have to go through, a warehouse full of stuff and pull it out, or look at 2D pictures that people took on set, 5 years ago, which is kind of cool. Just having that record of how it looked. If you had this technology back when the Ninja Turtle movies were made, I would assume they would take 3D pictures of those and want those on file somewhere, so they could go back and look at those suits and look at the intricacies and how they worked and how they were designed, instead of pulling out. Literally all they have is like blueprints and like notes and files now, because technology wasn't as advanced back then.
Yeah, and also just preservation. Let's say for museums and all these. Again, your museum could burn down and you'll lose everything. So the fact of, or there's certain objects that you can't really share with the public much because they need to be kept in isolation and in certain conditions to, you know, be kept in great conditions. So yeah, there's many possibilities also that, let's say in a museum, which we work with a bunch of them, is that, yeah, you can only visit or see the objects when you actually go there, but it might be fun, obviously, to also have a digital presence and being able to experience them virtually or online, and or seeing them come to life as well, which, you know, why does the Roman armor has to be, I don't know, just static there versus like seeing it, how it moved and everything.
And not only that, but like as technology gets more and more impressive, people will be able to 3D print stuff to scale. I mean, they can do that now, but like it's really expensive. But like this stuff you could do with it, just having the model. You know, we like you said, like our museum right now, well, we can 3D resin print your whole Velociraptor statue again with this model, and it's 100% accurate. You know what I mean? Like there's no.
Or you could duplicate it. You know, you have a scan of it, so now you could print it again or make it again in a different material or the inside, or just again without, you could work with it without destroying it. You know, like you could, you know, don't touch. At that point, the limitation is only
the 3D printer or whatever printer you're using. You know what I mean? But because you have all the data there already, and it's so accurate. You know what I mean? So the only limitation is getting it recreated with whatever printer's top of the line at that point. Which I've seen metal. I know Autodesk has like a 3D metal printer, which is crazy. Like the fact that those exist in the world is nuts to me.
Yeah, sure.
So like, where can people go to find out more about your platform? Like whether they're a big business or, you know, looking to get into 3D scanning.
Yeah, definitely check out our website, www.soreal.ch, and of course we're also on LinkedIn and YouTube, and where we post our work. But best way is to get in touch and definitely see what we're going to put out there.
And you can go to your website to see all the cool stuff they're doing at soreal.ch, and there's a lot of cool stuff on there, and see how their scanning technology works. It's insane.